On the day the Zhang family arrived at the orphanage to select an adopted son, all the children congregated, each hoping to be chosen and alter their destinies by becoming members of a prosperous household. Yet I felt no excitement. I concealed myself within a wardrobe and dozed off, believing I could finally evade the sorrowful fate of being adopted by the Zhangs and marrying Lily, the obsessive girl. I imagined starting afresh, liberated from past burdens. However, upon awakening, Lily stood before the wardrobe. She beamed and said, "Don't hide, I'm here to take you home." When Lily's face emerged before me, I was convinced I was still ensnared in the nightmare from mere moments ago. It wasn't until the orphanage's stern-faced director called out my name, "Ethan, why are you hiding in here sleeping?" that I jolted back to reality, recognizing the truth of my situation. The director, noticing my immobility, reached in and pulled me out of the wardrobe. She adjusted my collar and presented me to Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, stating, "You were asleep, and Miss Lily requested that we not wake you. Everyone has been waiting for you." Lily stood before the Zhangs, a gentle smile gracing her face as she looked at me. She appeared different from the Lily I remembered, the one who had always been so distant. She greeted me warmly, saying, "Hello, Ethan." Hearing my name from her lips felt unsettling. Confused, I frowned and looked away, pondering why they had specifically chosen me when they could have selected anyone else. "Why are you waiting for me?" I inquired. The director knelt down to explain. "They wish to adopt you. You'll have a family now, with a mother, father, and a sister." Normally so serious, she smiled at me, likely pleased by my adoption. Little did she know, I had been reborn. I had foreseen the Zhang family's visit today, prompting me to hide in the wardrobe deliberately. Mrs. Zhang gently took my hand, saying, "Ethan, come home with us. Lily has always wanted a brother to protect her. Will you be her brother?" This scene mirrored my past life perfectly. Memories from my previous existence flickered through my mind like a slideshow. I swiftly withdrew my hand and looked up at the director, stating, "Director, I don't want to be adopted by them." Instantly, everyone was taken aback. Lily was the most stunned, her brows knitted as she questioned, "Why?" I responded curtly, "Because I don't want to be your brother." Despite my rejection, Lily showed no anger. Instead, her tone became sweeter, subtly compliant. "Then not as my brother, but will you come live with us at the Zhang family home, please?" The director attempted to intervene, tugging at my sleeve, but she couldn't prevent me from declining Lily once more. I firmly refused, believing Lily would relent. However, when the director asked the Zhangs if they wanted to choose another boy, Lily suddenly exclaimed, "Mom, I want him. Only he resembles my brother the most." In my previous life, Lily had selected me from many boys because I looked like her brother. When I realized I'd been chosen, I thought to myself that fate must be favoring me. I was taken to the Zhang family's grand villa, renamed Ethan, and given my own room, even though it wasn't truly mine. I was content. Mrs. Zhang had once mentioned that children from orphanages might be a bit rough around the edges and didn't know how to behave gracefully. Determined to change, I began altering my habits to become more refined, less like my former self. Mrs. Zhang was strict, insisting I practice the piano for over 12 hours each day. Despite the teacher's assessment that I had no talent, Mrs. Zhang would sit with me daily to practice. Yet some things couldn't be forced. I often apologized, "Sorry, Mom, I still can't play well." And she would smile patiently, comforting me. "It's okay, as long as Ethan tries hard, you'll improve." I later learned that playing the piano was her late son's favorite hobby. Her treatment of me seemed like an attempt to find someone else within me. But I didn't mind. Like a fish indifferent to the cleanliness of water as long as it remains hydrated, having a mother was enough for me. I intensified my efforts, striving to make her happy. We grew closer, resembling a genuine mother and son. Then, during Lily's engagement party, both she and I were drugged. When Mr. Zhang saw us, he fainted in anger. Mrs. Zhang slapped me across the face, exclaiming, "I shouldn't have brought you into the Zhang family in the first place." Lily stared at me with tear-filled eyes, an emotion I couldn't comprehend. Perhaps she regretted choosing me as her brother. I tried to explain, I really don't know what happened. I didn't drug my sister, but no one believed me. Later, every time Lily betrayed me or disrupted our relationship, she would accuse me of having drugged her to force our marriage. "This is your punishment," she'd declare. Lily grew to despise me. After we married, she would publicly slap my face, humiliating me. Our social circle even began betting on the longevity of our marriage, predicting it would last no more than a year, claiming she'd leave our child once born. Contrary to expectations, Lily and I remained entangled for 19 years. Even after my death, my tombstone still read "Beloved Wife Lily." The director once asked, "Ethan, why don't you want to be adopted by the Zhang family?" After Lily and her parents departed, she summoned me to her office. I stayed silent for a while before offering a feeble excuse. "I don't want to leave you and everyone." She sighed, attempting to persuade me to reconsider. I understood she wanted to help, aiming for a better future for me, but I didn't wish to tread that path again. I didn't want to be bound to Lily anymore. However, that night, a fire shattered all my plans. In the hospital, I confronted Lily coldly. "Did you start the fire?" Lily quickly responded, "No, the fire was caused by old wiring. The fire department confirmed it." Her lips then curled downward slightly, and she added in a sorrowful tone, "Ethan, why do you think of me like that?" Despite only having interacted with her a few times in this life, Lily's demeanor felt oddly familiar. She gazed at me with hopeful eyes, saying, "I just want to help you if you agree to come home with me. My mother will cover the director's medical bills." The orphanage had burned down the previous night, and the director was severely injured while saving us. I scoffed, mocking her. This was the first time I'd heard threats delivered so politely. Lily didn't argue, merely murmured, "Ethan, it's okay if you don't want to be my brother anymore. As long as you come to our house, that's enough." Her tone, almost pleading, piqued my curiosity. I asked, "Why do you want me to join the Zhang family?" Lily explained, "My mother has been missing her brother lately, and you resemble him so much. I just want you to come and keep her company." I remained skeptical. Lily's behavior seemed off. The once spoiled and headstrong young lady I knew couldn't have said something like this. I pressed further. "Is that all?" After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "That's all?" I didn't want to reconnect with Lily, but the director was still in the hospital en route to the Zhang home. Lily continued speaking to me, but I remained silent. Perhaps aware of her unpopularity, Lily softened her tone, justifying herself. "The Zhang family can offer you a much better life than the orphanage. Right, Ethan? Please don't be mad at me. I'm only doing this for your own good." Her words mirrored those from my past life. For most of my life, Lily despised me. However, towards the end, as I neared death, her attitude softened. But by then, I was beyond saving. My only companion was my orange cat. Once, when Lily returned to the villa to see me, she was startled when the cat leaped at her. She immediately pushed it away, despite my months of caring for the cat. Weakly, I asked, "Why?" She rolled her eyes and said, "You really have no heart. I'm doing this for you, aren't I? Keeping a cat isn't good for your health." I realized then that her so-called concern was merely an excuse, a selfish pretext to torment me as she always did. She despised anything I liked. When I was happy, she'd ensure it was ruined. Upon arriving at the Zhang mansion, I saw Mrs. Zhang waiting at the entrance. Lily had informed her of my arrival, so Mrs. Zhang had already prepared a room for me on the second floor. She smiled gently and asked, "Ethan, this will be your room from now on. Do you like it?" I froze, staring at the room I had once inhabited. Then I shook my head without expression. I was no longer the Ethan from my past life, yearning for familial affection. "Mrs. Zhang, this is your biological son's room, isn't it? There's so much of his stuff here. You've kept it so well. I can tell you really cherish these things." If I stay in this room and accidentally damage something, I'm sure you'd be upset. I'll use the guest room downstairs instead. Well, Mrs. Zhang looked as if she wanted to say something, but Lily interrupted her. Mom, if Ethan wants to stay downstairs, let Auntie tidy up the room for him. I glanced at Lily, who had spoken up for me, probably unaware that my reluctance to stay on the second floor was because her bedroom was adjacent. In my past life, before Lily's engagement, we were actually close. Even in college, when Mrs. Zhang asked, Ethan, what kind of wife do you want to find? I paused, about to respond when Lily draped her arm over mine, acting cute. Of course, my brother likes someone like me, right? I helplessly smiled and agreed, unaware that this innocent joke would later become evidence of me drugging my own sister. Every time I tried to explain that I hadn't drugged her, Lily would grab my arm and argue, You've always said you liked me all these years, and in the end, you even drugged me to make me marry you. Why can't you admit it now? Perhaps because I had returned to this villa, that night I dreamt of events from my past life. In the final days before my death, a doctor had told me, It's not good for you to be alone all the time. Maybe you should call your family or friends to spend more time with you. I had replied, I don't have any family. As for friends, my best friend was Lily's fiancé, named Hero. It was only after 5 years of marriage to Lily that Hero returned to the country. That night, Lily hosted a reunion for him with many old friends, and someone had deliberately recorded a video of the gathering and sent it to me. Hero and Lily were seen sitting in a corner, kissing passionately. Though it was just a few seconds of footage, I watched it repeatedly all night. It was then I decided to ask for a divorce. Lily bit her lip and questioned, Why? I showed her the video. Lily, I know you married me out of necessity, but now that Hero has returned and seems willing to accept you, let's divorce and go our separate ways. Before this, I had already proposed divorce to Lily several times, but she had always refused. I thought that with Hero's return, she would finally agree. However, Lily still went into a frenzy, tearing up the divorce papers I had prepared and yelling hysterically, demanding that I be responsible for her for the rest of my life. At that moment, a voice came from behind. Ethan, brother, are you okay? I suddenly woke up and without thinking slapped the person in front of me across the face. Lily, appearing like a young girl, stared at me with eyes full of grievance. She said, I heard you talking in your sleep outside the door, and you sounded angry, so I came to check. After speaking, she covered her face and turned to leave. Before reaching the door, she glanced back and said, Mom asked you to have breakfast. You're going to be late for school. Just like in my past life, the Zhang family had transferred me to Lily's school. I saw her walk into the classroom with me. Someone asked her, Lily, who's this? Lily introduced me seriously. This is Ethan. He's currently staying with us. I suddenly remembered how, in my past life, before the incident with the drugging, when Lily introduced me to people, she always appeared happy and said, This is my brother, Ethan. I looked at Lily, who was only a step away, and realized she seemed different from the Lily I remembered. She didn't resemble the innocent girl from my past life, nor the one who later tortured and sought revenge on me. My heart skipped a beat, and I had a thought. I called out, Lily, just as I was about to question her about my suspicions. Someone else also called her name. Lily, Lily? She glanced at me and then looked behind me. I turned around to see Hero standing at the door. He said, Lily, wait for me after school. I need to talk to you. Only then did Hero notice I was standing next to Lily. His gaze towards me was anything but friendly. He scanned me from head to toe and said, You're the one staying with the Zhang family after all. He had been my best friend in my past life, and the moment Hero looked at me, I could sense his blatant hostility. It was completely different from before. In my previous life, when Hero discovered I was Lily's brother, he was thrilled, put his arm around my shoulder, called me Ethan, and included me in his circle. But now his demeanor mirrored the last time I saw him in my previous life. That encounter had ended poorly. I confronted him. The surveillance shows that the only people who entered Lily's room that day were you and me. I didn't drug her, so it must have been you. Hero retorted, right. Back then, I couldn't understand it. You liked Lily so much. Why would you destroy our engagement party? Lily had answered for me. His name is Ethan. Not that guy, Hero responded, offering a perfunctory smile before remaining silent. Later, as I sat at my desk, I noticed Hero constantly glancing over at me. Feeling uneasy, I forced myself to ignore him and focused on my lessons. In my past life, I struggled academically, but Mrs. Zhang didn't mind my poor grades. In fact, it seemed the worse I did, the happier she was. She would always say, Ethan is becoming more like A. She never liked studying either. A parent's love is profound, but what mother wishes for her son to become a carefree playboy? In the end, she never truly saw me as her son. To her, I was probably just a comforting substitute for her real child. In this life, I refused to live as I did before, spending the first half of my life as a substitute for someone else's son and the second half aimlessly. So, studying became my only escape, but learning was challenging. Realizing I couldn't comprehend the material, I felt a bit defeated and stood up. Lily, who had been chatting with her best friend, noticed and asked, "Where are you going?" Impatiently, I replied, "The bathroom." I remembered the school's bathrooms were few and far between, often occupied between classes. But today, for some reason, no one was there. It wasn't until I opened the bathroom door that I sensed something was wrong. Several students glanced my way almost simultaneously. The person closest was Hero, who had been holding a cigarette. He tossed it aside and looked at the boy they had pinned to the floor, drenched in dirty water, then walked over to me. He smiled and said, "Just messing around with him? You're not going to tell Lily, are you?" Seeing the cigarette on the floor, I suddenly realized I had never truly understood Hero. If I had, I would have known he smoked while studying and bullied classmates. After a moment's thought, I said, "I'm not that close with Lily, really." Hero asked, his tone softening slightly, "But you stay at her house, don't you?" I met his gaze and replied, "I stay at her house, but we're not close." Hero nodded and said, "That's good," before quickly leading his group away. Once they left, I noticed the boy on the floor. I quickly looked away and entered a stall. When I came out, the boy was standing by the mop sink, his back to me, shirtless and trembling as he rinsed his shirt under the faucet. Perhaps hearing the door open, he quickly wrung out his shirt, put it on, and lowered his head, hurrying past me. I reached out and grabbed his arm. The boy looked up in confusion, and our gazes locked in silence before I remembered his name. David. I removed my coat and tossed it to him, saying, "Your shirt's wet. Wear mine, David." He lowered his head again, refusing. "No need. It's not about the discomfort of a wet shirt. It's about not getting sick and not missing out on your grades." My words made David purse his lips. Hesitating for a moment before accepting my coat, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I wasn't one to meddle. In my past life, I had transferred to this school only for David to commit suicide a few days later. The school attributed it to family issues and academic pressure. But now I suspected his reasons were more complex. Such a young life lost. "Thank you," David said. Once he changed into my coat, the words "no need to thank me" hovered on my tongue. But I swallowed them back. After a moment, I asked, "You must be good at studying, right?" I remembered David was the top student in his grade before he left. He was taken aback for a second and nodded. "I'm okay." I glanced at the coat on his back and said, "David, I'll lend you my coat if you help me with my studies. After the quiz, we'll switch seats. We'll sit together so you can help me study." David hesitated for a long time before finally agreeing. After school, Lily insisted I ride with her. As soon as I got in the car, Hero called out to her, "Lily, can we talk?" I wasn't interested in their conversation and didn't want to listen. But the car was quiet and Hero's voice was loud and emotional. Their discussion drifted through the air, reaching my ears. Hero asked Lily, "Did you break up with me because of Ethan? We've been together so long, and as soon as Ethan shows up, you want to end things?" I can't think of any other reason. Lily shook her head slowly. It has nothing to do with anyone. Hiro replied, Lily, I just suddenly realized I don't have romantic feelings for you. I've always seen you as a brother. At that moment, I understood why Hiro had been so attentive to me today, even turning to look at me in class. During dinner, Mrs. Zhang abruptly announced, Ethan, I found you a piano teacher starting tomorrow. Before she could finish, Lily interrupted. Mom, Ethan doesn't like the piano. Don't force him to take up something he doesn't enjoy. Mrs. Zhang awkwardly smiled, but didn't pursue the matter further. I looked up at Lily, and my suspicion deepened. In this life, I had never told Lily that I disliked the piano. The only person aware of my aversion was Lily from my previous life. Back then, after she discarded my cat, my health deteriorated rapidly. Surprisingly, Lily, who had never been close to me, returned to care for me. It coincided with our 19th wedding anniversary. Lily, who had always demanded gifts, unexpectedly bought me a piano as a present, despite my lack of interest. I told her, I've never liked playing the piano. I only learned because your mother wanted me to. Her mood shifted immediately, and she returned the piano the same day in a fit of rage. However, she now seemed entirely different, gentle and caring toward me. Mrs. Zhang, still persistent, asked Lily, How do you know Ethan doesn't like the piano? Ethan, do you want to learn the piano? I quickly gathered my thoughts and politely declined. Auntie, I need to study. I really don't have time to learn the piano. After dinner, as I was about to retire to my room, Lily called out, Ethan, after tomorrow's quiz, we'll rearrange seats based on grades. Where would you like to sit? When I didn't respond, she continued, How about the 5th row by the window? This was the same seat I always occupied in my past life. Lily looked at me expectantly, her eyes filled with hope. I gave her a prolonged glance and casually replied, Anywhere. My indifferent response seemed to please her. The next day, however, she saw me walk past her and sit next to David. Ethan? Lily called out in front of everyone, pouting clearly unhappy. Did you choose the wrong seat? I replied, Nope. Lily stood there with a hurt expression before quietly sitting down. I couldn't help but comment to David, Aren't you the first one to pick your seat? Why'd you choose this one? David had selected a terrible seat in the middle of the first row. He explained, I'm nearsighted. If I sit too far away, I can't see the blackboard. He didn't usually wear glasses, and seeing my skeptical look, David openly added, I don't have enough money, so I didn't get glasses. I pursed my lips and said, Oh, I thought you chose this awful spot to leave it for me on purpose. David looked up from his paper and honestly replied, You're overthinking it, regardless of whether I was overthinking or not. After school, I took David to the optician outside and forcibly got him a pair of glasses. I joked, You can't see the blackboard, and if your grades slip, who will help you study? This is your tutoring fee. After all, I was using the Zhang family's money. They owed me a lot, so what was a little more money spent? I hadn't expected David to cry. He hadn't shed a tear when Hiro and his group had beaten him up. But when I handed him the glasses, he choked up and said, Ethan, when I have money, I'll definitely repay you. I managed to calm him down, but on our way back to class, Lily stopped me in the stairwell. She confronted me. Why didn't you pick the seat we agreed on? I impatiently asked, Who said we agreed on anything? Lily, did I promise you anything? Lily fell silent, looked at me for a long time, and then with a pitiful tone said, Ethan, why has everything changed? Are you too? I smiled back and asked, To what? Unfortunately, Lily didn't respond, but word of her search for me reached Hiro. After class, Hiro approached me personally, warning, Stay away from Lily. David, concerned, also advised, Ethan, you should stay away from Lily. Try not to interact with her. He even mentioned how Hiro had bullied him before. Lily only asked me one question, and Hiro accused me of having bad intentions toward his girlfriend. Ethan, Hiro's not someone you want to mess with. I'm worried he'll cause trouble for you. I would have preferred to distance myself from Lily, but she was like a persistent spirit, always appearing unexpectedly by my side. I sighed quietly, set down my exercises, and patted David's worried shoulder, reassuring him, "Don't worry." However, David's worries soon materialized. Hero cornered me in the hallway, asking, "Can we talk?" I was about to refuse, but seeing the unmistakable hatred in his eyes, I changed my mind. "All right," I replied. Hero's demeanor in this life was so different that I sometimes wondered if he, like Lily and me, had been reincarnated. I took 2 steps toward him, smiling as I asked, "What do you want to talk about?" Hero said nothing. As the noise in the stairwell grew louder, he tilted his head and sneered, "Nothing. If you weren't fostered by the Zhang family, you wouldn't even have the right to talk to me." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly fell backward down the stairs. Lily, ascending the stairs, witnessed him tumbling. Hero looked heartbroken as he said, "Ethan, why can't we just talk? Why did you hit me?" I was speechless, unsure of what was happening. His words drew angry glares from the surrounding students who were unaware of the situation. Lily bit her lip, saying nothing but gazing at me with a conflicted expression. After a while, several of Hero's associates helped him up and took him to the hospital. As they left, Hero sighed dramatically. "Lily, I think my leg is ruined. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to run again." Lily looked down at his leg, worried, and softly tried to comfort him before sending him off. Once everyone had dispersed, Lily approached me with a stern expression and said, "Ethan, go apologize to Hero." I laughed. "He fell by himself. Why should I apologize?" Lily sighed deeply. "Hero is an athlete. Are you saying he's using his own legs and future to frame you?" "Ethan, I know you hate Hero, but that's all." She suddenly realized something and stopped mid-sentence. I sneered and asked, "All what?" Lily paused. "I just transferred here. I don't have any conflicts with Hero. Can you explain why I would hate him?" She bit her lip, staring at me. The more she tried to conceal the truth about her reincarnation, the more I wanted to reveal it. I spoke slowly and deliberately. "Because you know I, like you, have been reincarnated, right? You know how much Hero hurt me in my past life. You think I have a vendetta against him, so I'm getting revenge, right?" I thought by now she couldn't possibly continue pretending, but Lily hesitated, her lips trembling, and ultimately denied it. "What are you talking about? I don't understand. But if you've done something wrong, you should apologize. Go apologize to Hero." I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. I looked into her eyes and smiled. "Lily, you're still the same, even in this new life. You're still so timid." Lily had always been pampered by the Zhang family, and beneath her spoiled exterior, there was nothing but fear. She always blamed others for her mistakes. In her world, she was always right, and everyone else had to apologize first. Thus, she couldn't face her past mistakes or admit that she had been reincarnated. My words made Lily's pupils tremble and her eyes reddened. But soon, she turned her face away, unable to look me in the eye. Her voice choked as she said, "I'm going to check on Hero." Afterward, she quickly turned and walked away. I wasn't sure if she was genuinely worried about Hero or simply trying to escape from me, but I wasn't about to let her off the hook. I swiftly caught up with her, grinning. "Didn't you think I hit him? Well, I'll go check on him too. Let's see if he's really hurt and consider whether it was me who attacked him." When Lily and I arrived at the hospital, Hero already had his leg casted. He lay in bed, and upon seeing Lily, he forced a bitter smile, saying weakly, "Lily, the doctor says my leg is seriously injured. I might never be able to run again." When he saw me following behind Lily into the room, he turned to face me with a questioning look. "Ethan, what did I ever do to you? Why did you hit me? Do you know that I'm an athlete? If I lose the use of my leg, my life is over." I listened to his outburst impassively before asking with a smile, "Hero, are you sure I'm the one who caused you to fall down the stairs?" Hero, enraged, gritted his teeth and retorted, "At that time, it was just the two of us. Who else could it have been? I'll tell you, Ethan, I was the long-distance champion in the city. If something happens to my leg, are you going to pay for it? If you don't apologize, Get ready to be expelled from school. Lily, looking sympathetic, turned to me and said, Ethan, please apologize to Hero. I ignored her and kept my gaze fixed on Hero. Do you really think there are no cameras in the stairwell? You can slander me just because there's no direct footage of what happened. Hero, I suggested, look again. There might be surveillance in the nearby area that you didn't notice. Hero's face stiffened for a moment. I noticed that subtle change in his expression. Hero hadn't been reincarnated. If he had, he would know that surveillance in the opposite building could capture what transpired in the stairwell. I felt a bit disappointed. I was about to leave when Lily, who had planned to follow me, was called by Hero. Lily, my leg really hurts. Will you stay with me for a while? Lily glanced at Hero, then turned to me. Ethan, can you wait for me outside? Of course, I wasn't going to wait for her. Without a word, I exited the hospital. As I returned to school, David rushed up to me, out of breath, and handed me a USB drive. What's this? I asked. David, panting heavily, replied, I heard about what happened with Hero. There's no camera footage of the incident in the hallway, but I managed to find a camera in the opposite building that captured what happened. Hero's dad is a shareholder in the school. I was worried they'd delete the footage, so I went to the surveillance room and secretly copied it. A surge of warmth filled my chest. I smiled at him and said, David, I can't thank you enough. You're really like a brother to me. I almost wanted to bow in gratitude. David pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Despite his efforts to hide it, I noticed the corner of his mouth twitching as if suppressing a smile. He feigned indifference and said, Just go back to class. The midterms are coming up. You should focus on your studies. Unfortunately, the footage David had worked so hard to copy wasn't needed in the end. That evening, as Hero sneaked around the school searching for the surveillance footage, Lily and I caught him red-handed. Before I could speak, Lily approached him and asked, Why are you here alone tonight? Hero stumbled over his words. Unable to provide a reasonable excuse, I couldn't endure the awkward silence. So I spoke up. What's there to be confused about? Criminals often return to the scene of the crime. He's obviously worried, so he came back to look for the cameras. I pointed across to the opposite building and added, The cameras you're looking for are over there. They cover this area, but I don't think you'll have time to delete them now because I've already copied the footage. Hero, I asked again, did I cause you to fall down the stairs? Hero gritted his teeth, and when he looked at Lily, he saw her staring at his casted leg. Lily asked, How come you're still running around the school with a cast on your leg? Hero was visibly flustered, fumbling with his words until he had no choice but to admit, Lily, I'm sorry. I was just confused at the time and mistakenly thought Ethan pushed me. In reality, I wasn't paying attention and tripped on my own. Lily, with a cold expression, shoved him aside and walked away without saying another word. The next day, under my pressure, Hero publicly admitted in front of the entire class that it was his own fault he fell. In the second semester of our sophomore year, David and I applied to live in the school dorms. David decided to do so because his uncle was moving out of town and he didn't feel comfortable living alone. As for me, I had grown weary of the fake relationships within the Zhang family. In this life, my connection with the Zhangs wasn't deep. They asked a few questions but didn't resist my decision. The only one who strongly objected was Lily. Why do you have to live in the dorms? She asked. While packing my things, I responded impatiently. It's more convenient and I can focus on studying better. Lily didn't press further and the room fell silent for a long while. Just when I thought she had left, I heard her voice, trembling and choked with emotion. You're doing this because you want to get away from me, aren't you? Ethan, I really thought we could start over, but you won't forgive me. You're still angry with me. I turned to look at her, her eyes shimmering with tears. I smiled faintly and asked, Why would I be angry with you? Lily, you're acting strange. First, you say I hate Hero, and now you're saying I hate you. Lily stared at me for a long moment. Slowly, she closed her eyes, then opened them again, letting her tears fall freely. She bit her lip and said, So you really do hate me, Ethan, can't you just forget about the past? Can't we start over? I narrowed my eyes at her, mocking. Done pretending, are we? But Lily acted as though she didn't see the obvious disdain in my eyes. She continued, speaking as if to herself, Ethan, heaven has given us another chance. Can't we forget about our past lives and start fresh? Lily was truly foolish, suppressing the anger welling up inside me. I sneered. Lily, I can't tell if you're stupid or just shameless. In our past life, I was the victim. I died a miserable death. If we're being playful about it, you're the debtor, and I'm the one owed. Now you're saying we should just forget everything, that I shouldn't collect and you shouldn't pay back. Are you joking? Forgetting is easy for you, but not paying suits you even better. Why should I forget? Am I an idiot? I thought. But Lily still wouldn't give up. Through her tears, she said, Ethan, I'll use this life to make up for what you lost in the last one. Before we got engaged in the last life, you told me you'd found a home of your own, and you were happy. If you let go, you could feel that way again. You could be best friends with Hero. We wouldn't be siblings anymore. And Mom and Dad wouldn't stop us from being together. After we graduate college, I'll marry you. Mom and Dad will treat you like their own son, and we can live a happy life together. Ethan, you can still have a home. Our home. Let's start over. I stared at her coldly and said, No, I will never be friends with Hero in this life, and I will never marry you, Lily. When will you stop being so ridiculous? Stop being so foolish, will you? Lily bit her lip and retorted, I'm not being ridiculous, Ethan. There's nothing impossible. Her eyes gleamed with a kind of madness. Lily sometimes exhibited the obsessive tendencies of a true lunatic. Not long after, Hero also moved into the dorms. Strangely, he was placed in the same room as David and me. He tried multiple times to befriend us, but David and I ignored him each time. Then, the day before the final exams, Hero suddenly barged into our dorm room, reeking of alcohol. What do you guys want from me? How can I make you forgive me? Just tell me straight. I've apologized, given gifts, said everything I could think of, and every day you still glare at me with those sour faces. Who do you think you're impressing? I've never been humiliated like this before. If it weren't for Lily going to my dad and forcing me to be friends with you, I wouldn't put up with this crap. My dad has been telling me since I was a kid to please the Jang family, to please Lily, so she'd like me and marry me one day. I've been a pushover for years, and then you showed up and ruined everything. Why? David and I exchanged glances. Watching Hero slump drunkenly onto the floor, I motioned for David to leave with me. As we walked out, Hero asked, Do you think I'm being too harsh? He apologized, but I waved my hand dismissively. Don't think like that. You're the victim. He's the perpetrator. He can apologize, and you can choose not to accept it. If perpetrators could erase their crimes with a few simple words, they'd only become bolder in their wrongdoing. If that happened, justice would cease to exist. In my opinion, David was already too kind. He even took the time to carry Hero back to his bed before leaving. But after that night, Hero's behavior only grew stranger. He started clinging to us relentlessly, requesting a seat change to sit directly behind me in class. Hero created the illusion that we were close friends, telling anyone who would listen, I've decided I want to study hard and get into the same university as Ethan and David. I'll frequently ask Ethan to help me with my studies, pleading, Ethan, won't you teach me? His tone was eerily familiar, reminding me of our past life. Back then, we had been the best of friends, and Hero had used the same tone whenever he wanted me to do him a favor. One day, David pulled me aside and whispered, Do you think Hero has really changed? I looked over at Hero, who was walking toward us, and let out a cold laugh. Maybe, but I still don't believe people change their nature overnight. No one suddenly becomes bad, and no one suddenly becomes good. Life continued this way until the college entrance exams concluded. Just as Lily had said, she was genuinely trying to make up for what she owed me in our past life. Piece by piece, she worked to restore the things I had lost. Through her persistent efforts, my relationship with Hero improved slightly. The Jangs also began treating me better. After the exams, they even brought me back to the Zhang family home, saying they wanted to throw me an 18th birthday party. Hero discovered this when he came to visit and eagerly volunteered. "I want to help with Ethan's birthday party too." Lily nodded happily. "Of course. You're Ethan's best friend. He'll definitely be glad if you help." Of course, the party's grandeur felt overwhelming, leaving both David and me feeling out of place. We slipped out to the backyard to escape the crowd. "What are your plans for the summer?" I asked. David took a big gulp of soda and replied softly, "I'm planning to get a summer job. I need to save enough for my first year's expenses." I glanced at the expensive watch Lily had given me and suggested, "Let me join you," before I could finish speaking. A sharp scream pierced the air from inside the villa. When David and I rushed to the second floor, Lily and Hero were already dressed. The suggestive marks on their bodies and the disheveled state of the bedroom made it clear what had just occurred. In front of all the guests, Uncle Zhang slapped Lily across the face. "How could you do something like this? Don't you have any shame?" Hero stepped in front of Lily, shielding her. "If you're going to hit someone, hit me. It's all my fault." The Zhang household descended into chaos. Lily tried to approach me to explain, but Hero's parents stopped her. "Lily, this is all our son's fault, but what's done is done." The party ended early, with guests leaving by 10 o'clock. Judging by the cordial smiles and polite words exchanged as they departed, it seemed the Zhang and Hero families had already reached an agreement on handling the situation. As I passed by the study on my way to bed, I overheard Uncle Zhang telling Aunt Zhang, "Let's arrange their engagement in a couple of days. Start preparing for the engagement banquet." Late that night, Lily knocked on my bedroom door. I pretended not to hear. The next morning, as I was about to leave with David to search for summer jobs, Lily intercepted me. She attempted to explain, "I don't know what happened yesterday. We were drugged." I looked at her with a mocking smile and asked, "Oh, drugged by someone else or by yourself?" A look of pain flickered in Lily's eyes. "Why would I drug myself?" she asked. I replied in a scornful tone, "Why not, Lily? In our past life, didn't you drug yourself and then blame me for it? In our previous life, I had always believed it was Hero who had drugged Lily. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that Lily confessed the truth to me. She had said, 'Ethan, what else could I do? I loved you. I fell in love with my own brother. I thought if I did that, Mom and Dad would agree to let me marry you. But I didn't expect Dad to die from the shock. Ethan, if it weren't for my feelings for you, I wouldn't have caused Dad's death or spent my whole life burdened by guilt. Too ashamed to even face my own mother. Ethan, you were at fault too, so you deserve to stay in hell with me.' As she spoke, she suddenly embraced me, saying, 'Ethan, don't leave me. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please don't leave me like this.' In our past life, Lily had deceived everyone, including herself, and had even managed to shift the blame for her actions onto me to soothe her own guilt. She had always been a coward, clinging to self-deception, whether in our past life or this one. Now she choked out an apology. 'I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to you in our past life, Ethan. I truly know I was wrong. Please forgive me, won't you? But this time I wasn't the one who drugged us. Please believe me.' She reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I pushed her away. As I turned to leave, I heard her say behind me, 'Ethan, I'll break off the engagement with Hero. Will you wait for me?' I left without looking back. As college approached, David came to the Zhang residence to help me pack. The Zhangs had reverted to their usual cold demeanor. When I mentioned moving out, they reacted indifferently, offering a few polite remarks, but little else. Everything was going smoothly until Lily returned home unexpectedly. She blocked my way and asked, 'Did Mom and Dad really agree to you moving out?' When I nodded, disbelief flashed across her face. 'How is that possible? They've always said they liked you and treated you like their own son. Let me go ask them.' While she went inside, David and I left with my belongings. As we exited the neighborhood, we encountered Hero. Unlike before, Hero didn't greet us or try to curry favor. He seemed intent on ignoring us entirely, but then stopped and turned back, calling out, "Ethan, you didn't seriously think I wanted to be your friend, did you?" "Me?" I asked. He sneered. "To be honest, if it weren't for Lily's request, I wouldn't even waste a glance on someone like you." It seemed that his engagement to Lily had emboldened him, allowing him to reveal his true colors. He smirked and continued, "By the way, it was me who drugged Lily at your birthday party." I looked at him, feeling nothing but disgust. He and Lily truly deserved each other. Their methods were equally vile. Hero carried on smugly. "I'll marry her, make her my wife. The Zhang family only has one daughter. In the end, everything will be mine anyway. Honestly, I don't even like Lily that much, but my parents are desperate for this marriage. It's all about the benefits, you know." Hero boasted about the advantages of marrying Lily, but I remained expressionless. No one knew better than I did how miserable life with Lily could be. Still, I thought to myself, let the wicked deal with each other. It was fitting. After parting ways with Hero, David sighed and said, "Ethan, you were right. No one suddenly becomes bad and no one suddenly becomes good." He added, "Thankfully, we didn't fall for any of it." 4 years later, after graduating from college, David and I decided not to pursue further studies. Instead, we started a business together. The expensive watch Lily had given me became our startup capital. With a bit of luck and memories from my past life, our company quickly gained traction, thriving under our management. The next time I saw Lily was at a bidding event. Over the years, I had heard bits and pieces about her and Hero. They had divorced not long after their marriage. At first, Hero refused to agree to the divorce and even resorted to violence. But when Mr. Zhang found out, he brought up past grievances and used every means at his disposal to send Hero to prison. Only then did their miserable union come to an end. After the bidding event, Lily caught up with me in the parking lot. She seemed nervous and hesitant. After a long pause, she finally said, "I'm sorry, Ethan." I glanced at her and replied coldly, "If you're truly sorry, then withdraw from the bidding." Lily hesitated for a moment before surprisingly agreeing. "All right." Even so, I didn't believe her. In business, there's no such thing as trust, especially between people like us. Later, I called David to update him on the bidding results. David sighed and said, "The Zhang family is involved. Does that mean we don't stand a chance?" "Not necessarily," I replied confidently. "If the Zhang family has sunk so low that they're competing with a startup like ours, it just shows how desperate they are. Trust me, this one's in the bag." David exhaled in relief, saying, "If you're confident, then I feel better." A few days later, the results came in as expected. We won the bid. I turned to leave, planning to call David with the good news. But when I glanced back, I saw Lily standing not far behind me. The sunlight streaming through the glass illuminated her. While Lily remained shrouded in the shadow of the wall, she forced a faint smile and said, "Congratulations." My smile faded slightly, and a sense of annoyance crept over me. Of all days, why did I have to run into her today? Lily didn't seem to notice my irritation. She continued softly, "I did what you asked." I frowned and asked impatiently, "What? Are you here to ask for a favor in return?" She shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, Ethan. I just wanted to see you, to talk to you. I wanted to tell you that whatever you want me to do, I'll do it." I studied her for a moment and asked, "Anything?" She nodded. "Yes, anything you say." I smiled coldly and said, "All right, then do me a favor and don't show up in front of me ever again. Can you do that?" With that, I turned and walked away. After a few steps, I couldn't resist glancing back. Lily was leaning pale-faced against the wall, swallowing several pills. When she noticed my gaze, she gave me a weak smile and quickly hid the pills behind her back. Her eyes lit up as though she had found hope. There was no need for her to hide. I didn't care if she was sick or what kind of medication she took. I spoke my true thoughts calmly. "To be honest, Lily, I'd rather tell you to die, but I know you'd never agree. So just stay out of my sight. That way I can pretend you're already dead." I didn't linger. As I left, I caught a reflection in the glass, a broken figure crouched on the ground, sobbing into her hands. She looked like nothing more than a crumpled mess of filth. While discussing a project with David, he casually mentioned the Zhang family. It was then I realized I hadn't seen Lily in a long time. It was as though she had truly disappeared. The last I'd heard of her was a year ago. A business partner had mentioned she was ill. They say depression is terrifying. That Zhang girl is a wreck now. She was fine before, but suddenly she fell apart, stays locked up in her house all day, won't see anyone. Mrs. Zhang even hired a priest to perform rituals, like she was possessed or something. Can't handle light, can't handle people. The slightest thing sets her off. "Ethan?" David's voice snapped me out of my thoughts as he patted my shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" I shook my head with a smile and returned to the discussion. Whatever happened to Lily was none of my concern. I only knew that I was doing well. I had friends and a thriving career. That was enough. In this life, I had achieved everything I had wanted in the last. Sometimes I couldn't help but feel that fate had truly favored me this time.